All right, so today we're diving into this really tense situation, India and Canada. It's been all over the headlines, accusations, international intrigue, you name it.
Yeah, and what's really striking is how fast it's escalated. Like we're talking weeks, right?
Yeah.
From this like one event to now like global
It
ramifications.
really does feel like, I don't know, almost like a political thriller, you know?
Oh, totally.
So June, right? Hardeep Singh
Yeah.
Nijjar, the assassination. Now, he was a Canadian citizen, but
Mm.
also like a big name in the Sikh separatist movement, which talk about adding fuel to the fire.
And that's where things get really delicate, right? Because
Ah,
Canada, they've got this strong commitment to protecting their citizens no matter what their background is, what they believe.
And then comes Trudeau. I mean,
Yeah.
he's not just the prime minister, right? He's cultivated this whole global image. So when he comes out and publicly accuses the Indian government of being involved in Nijjar's killing, and on Canadian soil, no less, I mean, that's a power move, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Huge escalation. Because that's a direct challenge to India's sovereignty.
And India, of course, they don't just sit back. Absurd, they say, a propaganda campaign. But it's more than just talk, right?
Right. Actions speak louder, you know? So when India demands that Canada reduce its diplomatic presence, that's a clear signal. It's basically saying, we're not so sure about your government right now, so we're gonna take a step back.
So Canada pulls a significant number of their diplomats from India. I think sometimes people hear diplomat and they think cocktail parties, state dinners, but it's serious stuff.
Yeah.
So when you pull back like that, what are the real world effects?
It's huge, actually, because diplomats, they're like the connectors, the ones keeping those lines of communication open, building trust, smoothing things over. This is a breakdown of that whole process.
Yeah, it's like switching from having someone's personal cell number to only being able to contact their lawyer.
Yeah.
Not a good sign. And, with India, they've got this really strong sense of national pride,
Yeah.
non-interference in other countries' affairs, right? So I'm wondering, from their perspective, how does this accusation land?
Well, India puts huge importance on diplomacy. It's like reflective of their place in the world, you
Yeah.
know? So to be publicly accused like this without what they see as like solid proof, it cuts deep,
Yeah.
especially on an issue as sensitive as this one.
That's a really important point about how India views this.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you have Canada,
Mm.
big on individual rights, justice. So a citizen is killed on their turf, regardless of the circumstances, they got to respond.
Right. And Canada, they're all about transparency too, right? So a Canadian citizen gets killed on Canadian soil. Launching an investigation, voicing their concerns, that's just how they operate. They're going to look into it and they're going to hold people accountable.
So you've got these two countries, each reacting in a way that to them makes total sense, but they're coming from these completely different places in terms of values, history, experience.
Exactly.
And it's not just some abstract geopolitical chess match. There are real consequences for real people because of this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's hitting people where they live.
And that's what we're going to unpack as we go further down this rabbit hole.
When we talk about human costs, it's easy to get stuck in like the geopolitical weeds, right?
Right.
But we're talking about people's lives, like directly affected by this.
Yeah, I mean, these aren't just headlines, right? These are real people, students, families trying to visit each other, people trying to run businesses, all caught in the middle of this.
And the thing that seems to be hitting people the hardest, right now at least, is the visas.
Oh, for sure.
Canada puts a hold on a bunch of their visa processing in India, and suddenly travel plans are just like up in smoke, you know?
Imagine, right, you're a student, you've worked your whole life for this dream, studying in Canada, and bam, it's all on hold.
Or families separated because of this. It's a bureaucratic nightmare.
It is, and it shows you, right, diplomacy.
Yeah.
This isn't just something that happens in some fancy room somewhere. It has real
For
impact.
consequences.
Yeah, and it highlights how important clear communication is, even when things are rough. Because when that breaks down, it's everyday people who pay the price.
Yeah.
We keep using these terms, right? Diplomat, tension, allegation. And I think most folks have an idea, but they take on a different meaning here, don't they?
Yeah, definitely more weight behind them in this context.
Like a diplomat, that's not just some guy good at small talk at a party.
No, these are highly trained professionals. They're representing their whole country, build relationships, navigating these crazy international situations.
The reduced diplomatic presence, that's not just like fewer meetings.
It's way more than that. It's a sign that something's really wrong The communication channels are breaking down.
And tension. That's not just two countries disagreeing on something.
No, it means trust has eroded. Working together. Forget about it. It's like trying to, I don't know, it's like trying to build a house on sand at that point.
And then allegation, right? Canada's made a serious accusation, but an allegation isn't a fact.
Right. Important distinction. It means someone's saying something happened, but it needs to be investigated. Proof, evidence, all of that before we can say what really went down.
And this is where it gets even more interesting, right? Because it's not just about what happened, but how these two countries see the whole situation.
Totally different worldviews clashing here.
To really wrap our heads around it, we got to go deeper than just the headlines.
We need the context, the cultural context, the historical context, all of it.
Because what sounds reasonable to one side might sound crazy to the other, depending on where they're coming from.
Exactly. Got to walk in their shoes a little to understand where they're coming from, why they're reacting the way they are.
And that is what we're going to get into right after this. We're back. And now it's time to really, unpack the cultural baggage that's getting dragged into this whole India-Canada thing.
Yeah, we've talked about how important it is to understand where each country is coming from, their history, their values, all of that.
Because you can't separate a country's actions from its, cultural DNA.
Exactly. So India, right off the bat, diplomacy is huge EE for them.
Yeah, it feels like more than just, how they deal with other countries, you know?
Yeah. It's tied into their identity, national pride, global respect, and they've got this long history of non-interference in other countries' business.
Which is why this accusation from Canada probably stings even more.
Oh, yeah, big time. Because for India, it's like, hold on. We've always advocated for dialogue, for peaceful resolution. We don't go around throwing accusations without rock-solid proof.
It probably doesn't help that India was, a colony for so long, right?
Right, exactly. Being told what to do, especially by countries who used to, well, you get the idea.
Yeah, that's got to bring up some baggage for
A
sure.
lot of baggage. And then you've got Canada, and their whole thing is individual rights, justice for all, that kind of thing.
So a Canadian citizen is killed on their own soil. They have to do something.
Absolutely. And they can't be seen to be sweeping it under the rug either.
Plus, Trudeau, transparency is kind of his brand.
Totally. So he had to react strongly for Canada, but also, for his own image.
It's like everyone is kind of stuck playing the role they've built for themselves on the world stage, even if it makes things more complicated.
Exactly. It's like a diplomatic drama, everyone playing their part. So where'd you go from here? Who knows, right? But this is what happens when two countries with very different perspectives and values, when those values collide. And it's a good reminder that, especially in today's world, you got to understand where the other side is coming from. It's not always easy, but it's essential, because otherwise these situations, they can escalate so quickly.
It's like that old saying, before you judge a man, walk a mile in his shoes. Or in this case, before you judge a country, understand its history, its culture, its values. It's complicated stuff, but hey, that's why we're here, to try and make sense of it all. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive, and we'll see you next time.